Hi everyone, I wanted to show you some paganism items that you can use for free or very, very low cost for those of you that are on a budget and are struggling with financial matters. Doesn't mean you can't obviously be pagan and live a pagan way of life. It doesn't mean you can't do that. It just means you have to work within your budget. So I'll show you some things that you can get which are either free or very, very cheap that you can use. And obviously you don't have to get anything, but if you want to, here's some ideas. So the first thing is, if you would like the connection to the sea, you can collect seashells off the beach if you are able to access a beach. Or you can ask friends who are going away if they can collect some shells for you. These are ones I've picked up off the beach myself, and these are quite plentiful depending on which beach you go to. So you can use seashells if you want that connection to the sea. Tea light candles are very, very cheap. You can get a bag of like 50 or 100 of them from the pound shop for £1. And they're nice and cheap, so they work out at probably about 5-10p each, depending on how many's in the bag. And they do burn for quite a while, and they're enough for any little spells or rituals you want to do. What you can do is just have your tea light candle and lay some of your natural objects around, and that could be your little altar space for your ritual that you want to do. If you get a big enough shell, you can actually sit your tea light candle in your shell. So that's another idea. You can also collect nuts and seeds as offerings. So here I've got a sycamore seed which I collected as an offering for Canunos, and here is a conker, and this one is a little acorn that I collected, and also pine cones. And they're just natural objects that I've collected while walking through the park. Cost me nothing to get in the park, obviously, because it's a public park. Just walk through and you can find, this time of year, you can find plenty of pine cones, conkers and sycamore seeds and acorns. So you can just go around picking those up and collecting those and use those in your practice. You can actually wear an acorn or put it in your pocket to represent strength and to give you strength. The other seeds can be used for obviously offerings, as well as the acorns could be offerings as well, depending if you have that connection to the forest. But these are great as like a little strength charm you can carry around with you if you feel you need some extra strength. Pine cones can be used for pine cone wishes. So what you do is you write down your wish on a little piece of paper, place it in the pine cone, and then you burn the pine cone on a fire. There are certain Sabbats where it's more common, but you could just do this whenever you wanted at this time of year. So let's say you wanted to wish for something, you could do a pine cone wish. So you could write your wish on a little piece of paper, roll it up, stick it in between the sort of prongs of the pine cone, and then burn this on a small bonfire or on a barbecue or something. A little fire pit, whatever. Just obviously practice fire safety. If you've got an open fire, you can burn it on that. I've got like a little fire pit I've dug in my garden myself, so it's just literally a hole in the ground lined with bricks that I've found. And I use that as my fire pit, so I could burn that in there with my wishes in to do a pine cone wish. Pine cones obviously also represent Yule and the seasons and rebirth. And along with like the pine tree represent rebirth and the fact that like life will come back to the earth after the winter's gone. So there's lots of symbolism and things linked with pine cones and conkers and acorns and stuff. You can also collect hagstones. This one was found in gravel in my front drive, and I found some on the beach. I found 3 or 4 in just regular gravel that's on my driveway. So they're around, and it's any stone that's got a hole in created naturally by running water. And you can find them all over the place. So this one's mine. And you can wear it as a luck charm. as a protection charm. Just put a little bit of string through it and wear it, or put it in your pocket. And it said if the hagstone breaks, it's said to have saved you from a major problem, or said to have saved your life. You can collect interesting rocks and pebbles. This one I found... Where did I find this one? This would be from the garden or the beach. I think this was the beach, actually. And it's just an interesting one because it's got this like crack in it. I might eventually crack it open to see if there's anything in here, because it's a possibility. But it's a really nice stone. And what you can do is you can take your tea light candle and you can arrange stones around it and your natural objects, and that could be your altar space. Then the next thing is, you might be thinking, oh, I want to buy like crystals. Don't worry about buying crystals. You can get some cheap, like some of mine I've had for like £1 or so. But then they can get quite expensive, especially if you collect a lot of them. But I've found quite successful workings by using stones I've found. So I found this pebble in amongst a whole bunch of gravel, and it was the only black stone in the lot. And it's got a little divot in it where it was starting to turn into a hagstone by having the water drip on it. And I like how it's got like one little white spot, and it's got one pale spot on the back as well. I have no idea what this stone's made out of, but it's black, so I use it as a protection stone. And I've found I feel very positive and very protected when I wear this. You know, so you can just use natural objects from the earth for your practice. You don't have to buy stuff. This cord was a bit of cord I had knocking around the house that I've used macrame techniques to turn into a cord for this, to turn it into a necklace. I've got flower petals that I've collected and dried. These are rose petals, and I collected them and laid them out on a towel and just left them to dry. I've actually sprayed these with some potpourri oil, but if you haven't got that, you can still use rose petals for love workings, love pouches, love jars, that sort of thing, self-love jars, and you can use rose petals for that, especially like pink or red ones. They're free, they were collected. You may, if you're walking about, spot fossils. So there's like a little bit of a fossil in this one. There's some of the little... There's like a little tiny bit of ammonite in here, and a little imprint of an old shell. There's something else in there as well. But you could use that for like a sort of ancient energy, or sort of connecting with the earth. And you can find these for free as well if you go and search. There'll be certain areas where you can go to find fossils and things. I use them personally as just to collect them and because they look nice, but you can use them if you want to sort of think about ancient wisdom and the ancient earth and connect with that. What else have I got that I've done for free? Jars wise, I just recycle jars. This one had some coins in, but this is just a coffee jar. And what I did is I soaked it in boiling water to get the label off, and obviously washed it all out and dried it. And I could use this to contain my objects that I've collected to use in my practice. I could use it to make something like a spell jar or something. I don't tend to use big jars, I tend to use quite small ones. But you can get smaller jars. I've got like a whole collection of teeny mini jam jars that I use. So there's different things, different jars you can collect. So they don't have to cost you anything. You can just get these from your recycling. If you don't have any jars, you don't need them. You could use an old cup, an old plate. I've got, excuse the state of it because I've used it as a paint palette, but I've got a little plate here, decorative plate here, that I had from the charity shop for 50p. You could use something like that as your altar place. So there's ways of improvising and ways of doing things so you can find stuff for your practice. I haven't spent lots of money on anything that I use. A lot of my objects are free, and then obviously I've bought crystals and books and stuff, but you can do research in other ways. If you don't want to buy a book or you haven't got access to the internet, you can go to libraries and borrow books for free about any subject you want to learn about to do with paganism and stuff. There are plenty of books in the libraries that you can find. And I've got like herbs like heather and rosemary and rosemary, and what was the other one? Like sage and stuff that I've collected from my garden, or I've collected from elsewhere with permission, obviously. The lavender I've collected from my own garden because there's lavender growing in my garden. But you can use whatever's around you. You don't have to buy anything, so don't ever feel like you have to buy everything, you have to have everything. You don't need it. You can do a lot of rituals and things with a simple felt tip pen and a little scrap of paper. You don't actually need any of this, but if you wanted to, you can. And obviously the candle, you can carve into it, you can decorate it. This could be your representation of deity if you want to work with deities. So yeah, I hope you found this little video useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.